I'm Alexandra O'Loughlin, and we're at the 153rd Open with One Club and MasterCard, bringing you Caddie Conversations from the MasterCard Club, giving you exclusive insight from the best players in the world. We have Cameron Young coming in to join us. Let's head inside. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Caddie Conversations, brought to you by MasterCard and One Club. I'm Alexandra O'Loughlin, joined by a special guest today. Please welcome Cameron Young.
How are we doing?
Hey, Cameron.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you here in Northern Ireland. Is this your first time seeing Royal Portrush ahead of this week?
Yeah, we saw it for the first time. We saw 13 holes on Monday. I remember watching a bit when Shane won a few years back, but my first in-person experience.
And you seem to love Lynx Golf.
Yeah.
We saw you at the 150th Open coming down the stretch, a second place finish. I mean, you played really, really well. It wasn't that you didn't get it done. It just came down to one stroke there at the end. So what is it about Lynx Golf that you love?
Yeah, I think it just forces you to be more creative than technical, and I think at times I can kind of get cornered in that technical world, and to come over here and just try to visualize shots and just try to get it around the golf course. You know, it's a much less perfect game over here, I think, in a lot of ways. You know, your ball does not end up where you hit it all the time. You get strange lies, you get, some awful conditions sometimes with the weather. So I think it just kind of gets you out of the normal box, and that seems to just kind of resonate with me, and I've enjoyed coming over.
What kind of things do you change coming to a place like Royal Portrush, maybe with your golf bag, with how you see the golf course, and just getting prepped?
Yeah, again, I think a lot of it's mental. I mean, my setup is exactly the same as it is at home. The only thing I do, I come over, I don't love to play the week before, just because I think when you come over and play in the wind, you can get into some bad habits pretty quickly, and I'd rather kind of come over fresh. And so I get here a little early. I left home on Saturday. Usually I kind of get in Monday night and play 9 holes Tuesday, Wednesday. But here I think it's just important to make sure that you kind of are adjusted to the time by today. So you at least have a day of feeling totally normal, and then you play tomorrow. So that's really the only change. I mean, prep-wise, you might practice a few different shots, but they're all ones that we hit at home anyway. So it's more chipping and pitching and just trying to get yourself comfortable being here.
What are some of those bad habits that you were talking about? I think maybe we would all like to know what you can get into the routine of playing.
Yeah, I mean, over here you tend to play a lot of lower shots. So I think it's really easy to start leaning forward, get the ball too far back in your stance at setup. And then kind of, for me, I tend to come over the top kind of anyway. That's just where my body wants to go. I'm always kind of fighting, trying to get it the other way. And when you get over here and you play a lot of those low shots, it just is really easy to fall into those habits really quickly. So it's very conscious on the range, trying not to get into those habits. And then out on the course, you kind of play the shots you have to. But for me, it's just a battle of not getting too far that way too early, because I think eventually over here it just creeps in and there's not much you can do about it.
Now let's take it back to some earlier years, because we've got young kids here today watching. What was it like growing up playing golf? How did you keep the love of the game all the way through college and now into professional golf?
Yeah, I think that's one of the key things that we battle with out here, I think, is trying to treat it, like you're 12 years old again. Obviously, there's professional aspects to it that, we all do, not necessarily because we want to, but because we want to get better. But I think when it comes to playing the game, that's one of the tricky parts. You can get lost out here in some of the other stuff and some of the more difficult things about being a professional golfer. But, I've been very fortunate in my life to have a lot of opportunity, and I try to remind myself of that constantly. I mean, when you're even playing in just your run-of-the-mill PGA Tour event, and you're not playing that great, it's important to remember how thankful you would be to have gotten an invite to that tournament when you were 20 years old in college, or just out of college with no status, what it would mean to you to get to play in that tournament. it's pretty easy to get settled in, and you just play week after week, and to not really appreciate what you're doing. So I think always just trying to look back at all the fortunate things that have happened to me or that I've done, good timing, good golf, that's kind of led me to where I am, and just be appreciative of what it's given me, not only in terms of golf, the game I love, but in terms of supporting my family and giving us, opportunity to be comfortable and make a good living doing something I enjoy.
And in golf, sometimes that's easier said than done when
Definitely,
you're in the
yeah.
round.
It
So
sounded
what
really
are you
easy there,
doing to bring yourself back throughout different shots on the course?
Yeah, I mean, over here in particular, you have to be very, very accepting of where the ball ends up. All you can control is the process that you go through leading up to your shot. You can control, how you go through all those steps. You can control as much as possible the frame of mind you're in before you hit a shot. But once you hit it, it's not up to you anymore. So it's being very accepting that, some of the execution is going to be poor, some of the outcomes are going to be poor, but if you can maintain a high level process and try to just focus on that, that's where I think kind of a very steady mind comes from for me, is focusing on that. You might be 10 back and it looks like such a tall task to climb up that leaderboard and get any closer, but the way you do it is not looking at the leaderboard and counting the shots. It's going through that process and executing the best you can, and it's all you can do. I mean, there's going to be days where your execution's really high, and there's going to be days where it's not, but you have to get it in the hole either way. So that's kind of my goal, is to keep myself mentally in that process.
And you seem to give yourself a lot of chances to win.
Yeah.
How much do you focus on, I need to win this tournament, or I just want to get the ball in the hole?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a little stretch there where I probably started to feel like, I have to win something soon. But it's pretty well gone. It's just not something I think about that much. I mean, I've had a chance or two this year, and it really hasn't been at the forefront of my mind thinking I have to win anything. It's more just trying to focus on the things that have put me in that position consistently, and trying to get better at those things so I have more chances. I mean, I think at some point I've been around enough that things just fall differently, and I win by one instead of lose by one. But again, that's not necessarily something I can control, so I don't think there's much point wasting my energy on it at this point.
Now, playing college golf at Wake Forest, where a lot of really great players have come out of, was there anyone in particular that you kind of leaned on for advice that maybe also came out of Wake Forest?
Yeah. So while I was there, Will Zalatoris was a year ahead of me. Obviously a phenomenal golfer. He was, light years ahead of us in college. He was, I feel like, already a top player in the world while we were still in school. As you all saw, his first few years out here has had an unfortunate run of injuries, but I think if he can get himself healthy, he'll be right back where he was. So he was someone I was always chasing in college. And then once I got my PGA Tour card and started playing out here, I ended up playing a lot of practice rounds with Webb Simpson, who was, I want to say, maybe 8 years ahead of me or so. And, he's a fantastic person. I mean, if you ever run into him, he's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, and obviously a tremendous golfer over a very long period of time. So he's someone I started playing practice rounds with him, and just, picking his brain here and there, and he's really enjoyable. I've had a great time getting to know him, and through him, I've got to know some of the other guys too. Russell Henley, who's having a great year. So those connections early are definitely really nice to make. You just have some people that are comfortable to go play with and try to learn something from.
And just outside of being comfortable, was there any specific advice that stuck with you that you still kind of reference today?
Not necessarily any particular piece of advice, but I think you just pick up general ways that people look at things. And that is where I'm mostly trying to learn. I don't think anybody out there, unless you really asked or pressed them, is going to say, hey, this is what you should do. Like, hey, kid, this is what you need to know. But just speaking to people and picking up the attitude with which they approach the game, how they think about certain shots, that's more what I'm looking for, is just little tidbits here and there. And yeah, I mean, there's so much to learn. Everybody out here has something that they're exceptional at. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking for.
And there's so much more that goes into being a professional golfer than just playing golf, like renting a car, those things early on that you have to figure out when you're on your own on the road. What was kind of the biggest adjustment?
Yeah, I think the life on the road part is not what you see. There's a lot more airport hotels from like 2 in the morning to 6 in the morning than people think. I mean, your clubs get lost, you miss connections, flights get canceled, and really, you're just on your own to do all that stuff. And traveling by yourself, you don't have the team to lean on, especially early on Korn Ferry Tour. And it's a battle getting through some of that. I mean, you spend 10 out of 11 weeks on the road, sometimes more than that, especially Korn Ferry Tour. That's a tough circuit to get through. And you get used to it a little bit, but there's still days that you're just like, man, this is just not what I want to do today. So.
Do you have any free time where you can go this week, check out Portrush, go into any of the restaurants, the pubs, the beach?
Most of the time, no, because I typically travel with my family. We have 3 little kids, so we're kind of all hands on deck all the time. But I mean, this week I do have some free time. They've stayed home. Just I don't think they would deal with the time change too well. So we left them all at home. But I probably won't do much. I'll try to rest, and especially knowing how much we'll likely battle the elements over the next few days, I'll probably just try to get as much rest as I can.
Now, how do you prep on the golf course when you have a beautiful day like today and you could have 30-mile-an-hour winds tomorrow? How are you selecting clubs and really doing the prep that you would typically do?
Yeah, a lot of it, our big focus over the last couple of days is just trying our best to have seen everything out there. So today, for example, number 9, it's a dogleg left, and the wind today is pretty much all off the right, maybe a little bit of help off the right. And, it seems like a simple hole today. You hit driver or 3-wood out there, you have a wedge in. But tomorrow, I know the wind is supposed to blow about 3 times as hard directly the opposite direction. So it's going to be hurt, and it's going to be mainly off the left. And we played it in that wind on Monday, thankfully, so I kind of have some idea what it's like. But it's just an example of a hole that today feels like nothing, and tomorrow it could be driver 4-iron. So it's just a battle of making sure you're aware that there's bunkers that will be in play that today you don't even see. So we're just trying really hard to walk around and look. We're not paying that much attention to the golf we play today. It's just hitting some shots, but really just trying to pay attention to our surroundings and be aware that, hey, if the wind does flip entirely, this is a totally different hole. And out here, I mean, there's bunkers that are 370 yards that are in play, and there's bunkers that are 250 yards that are in play, both with driver. So it's a bit of an adjustment, but I think that's the main thing you can do prep-wise is just to be aware of what's out there and aware that in different conditions, everything's in play.
Well, we want to see you play a few of these holes, so let's go over to Top Tracer.
Yeah.
We've got 16, 17, and 18 queued up for you.
Perfect.
Hit some tee shots.
Okay.
I'm glad you're carrying the bag, too.
Yeah.
That is not light.
No, it is not, no.
Okay, hole 16, Calamity Corner. Did you know about the names of the holes before
I did not.
you came into
That's
this?
the first time I've heard that one, but sounds right.
Introducing Calamity Corner. And I think you can see why.
Yes.
Kind of tell me about this hole, because it is probably one of the more dramatic par 3s that we see in the Open Rota. Yeah,
I mean, it's a long hole, and there's, your main trouble is right. So you kind of have the first part of the green goes, away from you, so the carry gets longer and longer on the right. So we're kind of aiming up to the left center of the green no matter where the hole location is. And there's a false front that's maybe 6 or 7 paces. So we're basically trying to carry it the middle of that false front, which is the left side of the green, a few paces on, trying to make a 3. I mean, realistically, there's, a low chance of making 2. So you're just trying to get through that hole and make your par and get out of there.
He makes it sound simple, but that little feeder up the left is pretty narrow.
Yeah, it is very narrow. All right, 208. last hit a ball about an hour ago. Open the book of excuses.
208. This will play 226 in the tournament, a long hole.
I'm going to try to just cut a little 5-iron it there.
I mean, what a swing for
I
not
hit it
having
good,
hit
too.
in an hour.
Looks like the middle of the green. Right there.
We're trying to tell you how
problem.
difficult this hole is, and
Hard
look,
hole.
you're making it seem easy.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about on the putting surface and on the greens?
Yeah.
How are you prepping? Are you doing any drills?
Yeah, not necessarily. I do kind of my standard drills, which is all really just based around short putting. I practice with a chalk line and a mirror just so I am really clear on, where aiming straight is. That's kind of my standard practice. I just make sure my setup is good on a straight putt. And then I do kind of just from 4 different angles. I hit a 3, a 4, and a 5-footer. And I know that if I make all those or make all but one, I'm pretty much in the range of where I should be. So I do that. And then out here, it's a lot of practicing some longer uphill putts, especially into the wind. We're used to much faster greens. So some of the strokes you have to make out here with a little slower greens, a little bit of wind into you, you just have to make some way bigger strokes than we're used to. So you hit, of the 30 biggest strokes you make of the year, all 30 of them are here. So it's just a little bit of making sure that you can do that with proper tempo and getting a feel for those longer ones, because you are going to have some long putts. You get some really deep greens. With some wind, you're going to miss a few numbers. And you're just going to have some of the longest putts on some of the slowest greens you have all year. So it's really just a matter of trying to get comfortable with that as much as possible, just to make, when you are a little out of position, even if you're on the green, just make your pars, move on, and just try to get comfortable doing all that.
And there really is no formula for gauging the wind with putts. So how are you adapting into the wind, downwind? Is that just feel?
It's a lot of feel. Every once in a while, some of the ones into the wind in particular, it's just, you have to really just commit to hitting it, because there's some out here that you're not used to hitting it that hard, and you have to really tell yourself to just hit it through the ball, because you're never really going to miss that long. Your body won't let you. And it's just a matter really of getting it there. So there's a few you have to kind of over. You're like, okay, I know this feels really big, but it's not going to go more than 3 or 4 feet by. You can't hit it that hard. So you're just hitting it really as hard as you can let yourself and trying to get it up there.
Okay, so now let's move on to hole 17.
Okay.
Getting deeper into the closing stretch.
Yep.
This, I think, is a very fun hole, especially to watch, because I think it plays so differently each time. You've got that kind of huge slope there at the end.
Yeah, that downhill. I think it's right about at 300 yards is that cliff there.
So what do you think about this golf hole?
So it's super wind dependent. Yesterday, I played with, wow, that is a long tee.
You wanted everyone?
I played with Justin Leonard, who is not the longest guy out here, and he hit it all the way down there like 8 yards short of the green. So it's really just a matter, if you get it over that hill in the right spot, it'll get all the way down there. And then again, tomorrow we're going to get it, in off the left, and that 300 yards is not in play. So it's very wind dependent, which just changes your line. You're shifting it more and more left, kind of as you get more help. But yeah, if it's down, if I can get it to that slope, I'm going to try. And if not, I'll be kind of laying it up a little short right of there.
Okay, maybe we go back to hole 16, the par 3,
Oh,
because we don't want you hitting off a long
it's
tee,
okay.
but we love seeing your golf swing,
I'll
right,
hit it
everybody?
I'll hit it off the ground.
It's a beautiful golf swing.
I'll hit it off the ground. I don't care. I'll hit a 3-wood. I'll lay one up.
Yeah, we might as well do that. Now, what's your mindset going into a finishing stretch, especially at an Open? Same mindset as your typical PGA Tour event, or are you really trying to focus in on each swing? What's different?
Yeah, it's situational for sure. In almost every scenario, you're really just trying to remain committed to your plan and try to execute the shots that you think are correct. Every once in a while, like for example, that Open at St. Andrews, I kind of was 1 or 2 back with a few holes to go. I don't remember exactly, but those last few holes there, you can hit drivers, you can take some aggressive lines, and at that point I said, hey, I'm not gonna just try to make my pars and hang on to a good finish. I'm gonna try to win the tournament. So I took some more aggressive lines with drivers, and that's a rare circumstance where it changes. When I feel like playing with Cameron Smith, he's just not gonna make a mistake for me, I don't think. And whether that's right or not, he ended up not making a mistake, so it ends up being kind of the right decision. But in most cases, you're trying to stick to your plan, and every once in a while you get a case where I'm just going to be a little more aggressive. But these finishing holes, obviously 16 is difficult, and then 17 is a birdie chance. Realistically, it's one of very few out here, and then 18 is hard. So
should we give 17 a shot?
Yeah, we'll give 17
club.
a go here.
Perfect. 365.
Okay.
So you'll end up kind of at the top of that.
It should, yeah. It might just creep over there depending on how firm our simulator settings are here. It's all right.
Wow. All right, let's see that come down. And this is pretty narrow too.
It is, yes.
Which I don't think you can really tell here, but
no,
you've got those little bunkers that come into play off the tee.
Yeah, and especially there's a dramatic slope there, actually, right to left. It's really only the first, the right 5 or 8 yards of the fairway where the ball will actually track down the hill straight toward the green. Most of it falls off to the left, kind of where I hit it there. But it's a really narrow area, so you can get it down there, but it's only 5 or 8 yards wide.
Now, I think we have to give 18 tee shot a go, because this to me is one of the coolest holes because of the grandstand. It's the biggest grandstand I see throughout the year.
Yeah, it is.
For you too, it just is unbelievable.
This tournament in particular, every year I feel like that walk up the last hole and kind of the classic 2 sides of grandstands and the one across the back it's a special walk, and this year is no different on that.
When you were watching 2019 Open here at Royal Portrush, were you thinking, wow, that's going to be me? No. I'm going to be making that walk up?
No. I was, I would have just graduated college, and I was kind of fighting injuries, and the main thing for me, I was trying to make a Walker Cup team that year, which I didn't end up doing, but every day at that point was kind of a battle. I wasn't playing great, so I was not at any point. That's what I wanted to do, but the belief was not particularly high at that point in my life. So
how quickly things change. Here you are.
Changed. Yeah, a couple of years later, I was going at it out here. So
Cam's gonna hit this shot, and then we'll take questions from the audience. So get your questions ready.
Go the other way here, a little cut off the left. That wasn't my best. Stay in bounds.
We'll still all take that shot.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Is there a better spot to be on that fairway, the left or the right?
I don't think it's too important. To a left, that, for example, this back left hole location, being on the left side is probably a little more difficult, just because from the right, the green kind of slopes straight away from you, so you can bounce something back there a little easier. But to most of the hole locations, that one's just really trying to get in the fairway.
What's the most difficult shot on that hole that we'll be able to sit in the grandstands, watch, that we should really keep an eye on?
Yeah, anybody, the left miss to that front left hole location, you'll see guys trying to bump it up the hill. That'll be a fun one to watch, and kind of the same to the back left, assuming they use both of those spots. That'll be anybody kind of middle depth of the green, down in that hollow or just down in the rough. That's where you'll see some interesting chips from.
Okay, who has questions in the audience? We've got one right over here.
What is the longest drive?
Longest drive, 470 yards on number 7 at the Century Tournament of Champions last year. It was the second longest drive of the year to somebody else on the same hole on the same day that hit it 475, I think. I don't know why I remember all that. But,
Who else do we have? All right, over here with the yellow flag. 470.
Yeah.
Well done.
some big hills out there.
What's one tip you give to an amateur golfer to get better?
The main thing I tell people is there's really nothing stopping anybody from having a good setup. I think that's where it all starts. So, I mean, obviously, depending on how much time you have to practice, if you just hit 6 balls before you go play, it's a little harder to kind of get comfortable with some of that stuff. But, I mean, I think there's really nothing stopping anybody from being, pretty square feet, square knees, square hips, and, bending over at the hips and trying to get yourself, as neutral and as square as possible. Because that sets up the first part of the golf swing. And, from there, there's just less room to make, big mistakes. So I think, for the most part, everybody could, set a club down or a stick down pointed where they want to go and kind of just practice getting in there really squarely. And from there, you build a solid start. And then, you start with that, and then you work on from here to there. And that takes care of a lot of the rest of the golf swing.
Who else do we have out there? Some hands raised. Perfect.
So obviously, Royal Portrush is one of the most challenging courses to play on the tour. But how important is the mental aspect of coming to the last major of the year and for yourself to go out and compete and try and win it?
Yeah, like I said, it's a battle of acceptance out here. I think just because bad things are going to happen, you're going to make bad swings. You're going to hit good shots that don't end up in good places. So it's just really, really high acceptance, trying to keep yourself in a state where you can execute well, because things are just going to happen out here. And for me, that's one of the main battles. My execution when I'm in that frame of mind tends to be pretty good. So it's almost easier in cases like this, or like the U.S. Open, for example. It's just going to be so hard, and it's almost easier to accept it on the whole at the start of the week, just because all that stuff is going to happen to you. So it's a good reminder for me, probably how I should be thinking a little bit more often. But yeah, I mean, the battle out here is all just bad things are going to happen. It's just how you deal with it, and how you deal with imperfection. Just you're gonna have days where the weather's bad, or you're getting some bad bounces, and you're gonna have strange shots. So it's just a matter of trying to get through that and get the ball in the hole. Yeah.
All right, can we give a big round of applause for Cameron Young? You'll have a lot of support this week out there at Royal Portrush.
Appreciate that.
Fantastic.